Yasoon was an acronym for yet another social outlook network.
How do you pivot your company, right? Like, how do you innovate to stay ahead of the curve, given that Atlassian, has folded in a couple of those features? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian. Today I have founder Andy of Yasoon, and we are going to be doing a behind the scenes of getting to know this amazing company with their amazing app. You guys have loved their videos. This product showcase, these videos that I make on Yasoon's behalf are one of our more popular ones. They're definitely very, very sought after content. People are looking for Microsoft and Jira / Atlassian integration. So I'm happy to get a couple of minutes here of Andy's time so we can talk shop and maybe get to know the company behind this amazing product. So Andy, thank you very much for coming on.
Yes, thanks for having me, and great to finally meet you. I think we have missed in Vegas, so
I
will
don't
be
even want to
better
get
this
started with
time. So we have to
Vegas.
do it remote.
Yeah, Vegas was something else. I did stop by the booth. I did stop by your guys' booth, but oh my gosh. Let's just say the Teams is not long enough.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was long enough. I was sick on a hotel room for the 2 days, so it
Really?
was a little unfortunate.
That's always like my worry when you travel. That's why I try to stay like the week before we were vitamin C's and just trying to boost up our immune systems, and then at the conference I'm trying to avoid specific food, right? Trying to eat as minimal as possible just to not get like an upset stomach or something.
I should have followed your rules. Yeah.
I imagine it's harder for you guys, right? Because you guys are coming from overseas, and like for me, like it wasn't that big of a shift, right? I drove there. It was 3.5 hour drive.
I have 3 kids, so I'm used to not sleeping through the whole night. So, but yeah, the time lag is exhausting. But
Yeah. So Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit
years.
about you? Let's introduce you and your company and how you
Yeah,
started
I
here.
mean, I'm Andy. I'm one of the founders. So I have a co-founder, which is Toby, and we have studied together. We are good friends, and yeah, we studied together. We started at the same big corp company, and basically worked there for 3 years. And in the 3 years, I had like 4 managers without changing my own job. So it was really like a chess figure. Yeah, we moved there and let's do something different now. And now a new manager with a new spirit. And I don't know, it was like not really fulfilling to work there at that time, at least. I mean, I can only speak from my experiences. And so we decided, okay, we want to do something different. We want to start our own business. And we had this company was completely running on Microsoft Outlook at that time. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago. Everything was on Outlook, mails, calendars, meetings. And so we
The good
wanted to
old
create.
days Link, right? Or did you guys
Yeah,
use
yeah,
Link?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There was Link and Skype for Business.
Yeah,
They
it
were
was
the
Link for a
two.
while, and then I went to Skype for business. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and then we thought like, okay, let's do some. I mean, let's start a company. We had an easy time to be freelancers, so we worked 2 days as a freelancer to cover the bills, and then 3 days a week to work on our own product. And we wanted to do something with Outlook to make it more productive, and that's so the early signs that we want to create connections with Microsoft and Microsoft 365 at that time. And that's, I mean, I'm probably getting hit by our marketing team, but Yasoon was actually an acronym for yet another social outlook network.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
because the initial idea was to have something like Slack, but based in Outlook. So you have like a community, like a group, you can chat inside of Outlook. Uh, but then Microsoft has launched their own groups and they have launched their own Office add-ins, and so customers could get it from Microsoft for free, and so our idea was basically not useful anymore. But at that time, we had these integration, and we had integrations from Outlook to different tools. One of these tools was Jira. So Jira notifications were pushed and ordered and classified. So you got these hundred of mails from Jira, and they were automatically classified, and you got it sorted by issue and sorted by project, and you could discuss them and forward them more easily. And we took that integration as a piece of value that we could still keep, and created an own product based on this integration for Jira. Put it into the Atlassian marketplace because we could, and that was like the start of the real company as we know it today. We had this Outlook add-in in the Atlassian marketplace, and then we had this good keywords. I mean, we had the advantage that we had Microsoft and Outlook in our name, and people were automatically searching for these kind of integrations. And then out of nowhere, people from all over the world started to install, and I will always remember my first a bigger check we got from Atlassian, which was an American company, Seaboard Marina. They are a container shipping service, and I'm super glad about that first customer. And that's how it all started, actually.
Yeah, that very first customer always is so important. I've been reading a book of how to build a business, right? Because I have a really big entrepreneurial hopes as well, and very similar to you. It gets kind of you're just a number, right? And when you work with these big companies, big corporations, managers come in, managers come out, goals change. It's I like to say it's high school all over again, right? It never changes. It's just you just go into the popularity game of who's the most important and stuff like that. And so I've been trying to build something, and in this book that I'm reading, this concept of your first dollar. And so I had I asked for $1. I asked people for, hey, I'm starting a company. Who wants to donate your first dollar? And so my son gave me my first $1. I keep it here as a reminder to keep working on this company that I'm building, and showing that very, very first dollar that I made from this business that we're trying to build. So I can see how that first customer has a very, very special place in your heart.
Yeah, it does. And he was really, I mean, it's probably true for a lot of Atlassian customers, but he was super nice, and he was friendly and giving a lot of feedback and advice. And we were able to call him a couple of times to get feedback and improve on our product. And he's still a customer of us, like 8 years later now. So managers don't have to change. It can also be consistent, and which is good in that case.
That's good. So you kind of glance right over, right, this whole Jira notification. Like how did you discover Atlassian? Like, did you jump into the cloud first? Were you in the data center?
Yeah, I mean,
How did you stumble upon this Australian company and determine that's where we're gonna put our chips in?
I mean, actually, it was pure coincidence. I mentioned we have been freelancing for another company, and to make it easy, they were like a professional service company. So they hired consultants and put us into projects. And they were using Jira for all their tools, and they were like, yeah, I have these project managers. They were all like, hey, I get so many mails and requirements from customers. How do I work with them in Jira, and how do I notify them? That's when we were like, hey, okay, that might be a good first integration for our product to make it more easier for product managers. And yeah, so if we wouldn't have this freelancing agreement with them, we might have ended up somewhere else. So it was not that we hadn't a big Jira or personally, I hadn't a big Jira experience before. It was really
Right.
just
So this was very new to you. Yeah. So then,
yeah.
what were you doing as a freelancer? Like, was it still within the Microsoft ecosystem, like just doing
It
type?
wasn't my previous company was SAP. Like it was really SAP
Mm.
business projects. So I had no Microsoft background and no
So
Jira
all of this is
background
just
going into
serendipity.
this.
So serendipity, all of this, right? Like that you just happen to enter the right market at the right time with the
Yeah,
right with the right
I mean,
growth.
I think in a lot of times that was also really beneficial to be to add this outsider view. So we haven't been the first Outlook integration for Jira. We haven't been the first to do specific things, but we have a very different background. We had these SAP, a little bit more business software, more enterprisey. Had a lot of we have seen a lot of professional software development before in our jobs. And I think at the time when we joined the Atlassian marketplace, like 2015, roundabout, maybe 2016, um, especially with the Jira Cloud, it was really, there were a lot of small companies around and they have professionalized a lot now. But at that time, it was still pretty easy to outclass the competition or make
Yeah.
something stellar, unique for your use
And
case.
it was also a good starting point because 2015, 2016, that's when Microsoft started going all cloud, right?
Yeah.
Like they were really investing into getting everybody off these on-premise
Yeah,
environments. And
also we started with the Jira Cloud, and afterwards we added support for Jira Server at the time. So we already had this advantage of the new generation being like we do not needed to migrate our Jira Server add-in to Jira Cloud, but
mm,
we started on Jira
you started
Cloud
in the
and
right spot.
made it a little bit easier. Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you have a developer background? Like, are you a coder or
Yeah.
okay? So that made
We
it
are
a little
two.
bit easier.
Yeah, we are two coders. So Toby is a coder. I'm coding. I'm still coding now. I mean, we are like 25 people now, and I'm still trying to code as much as possible because that's what I enjoy, and I rather hand over marketing tasks to other people who enjoy doing that. I don't. I don't know. I hate doing a brochure and creating text and talk about my own stuff. So this
I'm
is
like,
like.
yeah, yeah. Here you are promoting and talking about your own product.
But what I enjoy most is sitting in my office, open Visual Studio, and start coding, and that's what I
Let's
love
talk
to do.
about that transition a little bit then. So, I've tried to write an application for the Atlassian ecosystem with Atlassian's APIs, and they're not the easiest to figure out. And so, what did that first iteration look like? Like, what were your initial challenges and frustrations of creating your app? Or was it just smooth
Um,
sailing and you're like, how long did it take you to make it?
I mean, we really started with an MVP. Like we had our basically we started with a single feature. You can create an email. You have an email in your Outlook, and you can transform it into a Jira issue. And at first, all the fields were static, so you could just enter summary, description, due date, assignee. So it was just a fixed list of fields. And then after time, we realized, hey, there's a configuration in Jira, and you can pull it into, and then the screen in Outlook actually show all your fields with the custom fields and stuff like this, and everything you have configured and showing descriptions. And so it was really an iterative process. And I wouldn't say that we had a lot of challenges just because we had a super straightforward case, which is creating an issue.
Right. So super simple,
No,
something that the
it's not
API can
rocket
do.
science, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
When you
then
break it down like that, right? When you break it down so simple, like, yeah, it makes sense. You have an API to create issues. It's easy.
yeah, right. And then we are just like, okay, we're getting feedback from customers, and then you're like, is there an API for that? And we never had the point where we had to create a big concept or something like that. So it was really step by step. We figured out, hey, there's an API for this and there's an API for that, and then how could we use that in our product? Let's see, because that sounds interesting. But in general, we always try to push the limits a little bit. So like, is there maybe a private API? Is there an older legacy API that is used on the UI? So we always try to get the best results possible, which probably made us stand out on the competition as well.
Yeah. And then any inspiration from the Microsoft side? Because I'm assuming you also have to integrate with Microsoft APIs.
Yeah, Microsoft was very different because Microsoft has like these really legacy APIs that can do everything. So they are a security nightmare for everyone. They can absolutely do everything. They are pre-cloud, and they were from the 80s and 90s, and nobody ever thought about, oh, great, there's an API in the public internet and everyone can access it. That was just out of mind at that time. And so they are retiring these APIs now, and have created Microsoft Graph, which is a more traditional REST API, and you have scopes and you have permissions, and that all didn't exist in the old API. So there we really had to transform our app from these old APIs to the new APIs, which was challenging because we couldn't replace all the features. So we had to reinvent parts of our application, or had to find a new way how to take this over, how to guide the user, how to retrain the user. I mean, also change is hard. So if a user is used to a specific feature and you take it away from them, they are angry. And so
Oh,
you
yeah.
need to give them an alternative, and you need to make sure they find the alternative. And so that was definitely more tricky for us.
Yeah. No, I think again, it sounds like serendipity worked in your favor a lot because when you look at the Atlassian ecosystem as a whole, there's a lot. The Atlassian invests heavily. Like Slack is in there, right? Like Slack is front and center. It's in the project settings by default. It's in your JSM projects by default. But the Microsoft stack usually doesn't get as much love as Slack. So, any plans to venture into the Slack world, or are you kind of just sticking within Microsoft?
I mean, we are super happy in the Microsoft space. Also, I do think it is a mistake to think of Slack and Teams and whatever there is as the same tool. They are specific. They have their own quirks. They have their own processes. They are used in a different way, and so there won't be this one integration that works, or this one concept that works on all of these tools. And so we focus on the Microsoft side to create the most powerful one. So this is always our goal, to provide the best integration possible for our customers. And you mentioned that the Slack integration is getting more love by Atlassian, which is just partly true, actually, because, for example, once our Outlook integration became successful, and we gathered a couple of thousand installs in the Atlassian marketplace, Atlassian launched a free offering, which was basically, it has the same 3 buttons than ours. It had the same features. So it was really, really similar to our app, but for free, included in the cloud. And that definitely hit us at that time, and canceled a lot of our growth, because obviously an existing customer wouldn't move directly, because it's a hassle to switch software from, and if everything is working, you basically don't move. But new customers, they checking out the Atlassian integration, they are happy with that, and they wouldn't switch to our solution afterwards.
Mm. But
And the same is true for Teams. They have also created or invested a lot of Teams features lately, because I think they also realize how big the Atlassian ecosystem is with a couple of hundred million users compared to Slack, which is more like an IT bubble
Right. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. All the cool
Uh,
kids use it, right? But it's just this very
yeah.
small. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft's tools are big are for like enterprises, right? Like the big players are on Microsoft technologies. At least
Yeah.
anyone with deep, heavy pockets.
I don't know. I think they are also for the more casual companies. Like, I mean, we have a lot of lawyer companies, so these smaller agencies with 30, 40, 50 users. Microsoft 365 is super easy to set up. You get Word, you get PowerPoint, you get Excel, everything you need,
Yeah, email, yeah,
and you
all
are
of it.
already used to. You don't have to train anyone, and everything is in the cloud. You get the mailbox, you have Teams for chat. It's super easy to set up. And even a small shop can manage that on their own in the cloud. And so I don't think it's just enterprise. It's really easy
For
to
everybody,
start.
yeah. It's
Also,
interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because I've worked in a couple of startups here, right? And at least here in the US, like in the conversations that I hear, right, it's like, hey, because you need to pick. You have two options only, right? You have the Microsoft technologies, and then you have Gmail or Google
yeah, yes.
services, right? And I always see companies like levitate towards Google because it's a little bit easier, and also a lot of people traditionally don't like if you're either on the Microsoft's team or you're not. Like there's people that just
I,
since the
I,
80s just don't like Microsoft.
I mean, personally, I'm super happy with the Microsoft offering, but I'm also not a deep expert. Like, I have a 25 user company, so I do not have these special requirements, and I do not have a deep configuration. And I can see that there's a lot of this new stuff and this onboarding and team stuff that is super polished. And then there's a lot of things going on when you go to policies and who wants to get which and permission schemes. And there are a lot of scary things I do not touch, and that's why it's fair for me.
Yeah.
But in the end, we have a super setup here. Also in the new office, we have these door signs that are automatically mirroring your calendar and
Yeah.
bookings, and I can share my screen to every monitor in front of me and stuff like this. So for us, it is a super modern setup. Everything is in the cloud, super easy to manage. So for me, I don't know. I couldn't imagine anything that is easier than the setup we have. But
Yeah. No, I mean,
um,
yeah, it makes sense. But like I said, I have a buddy. I don't know if you, Sean Doyle from Release Team. He's a solution partner
yeah,
within the Atlassian ecosystem. And we were in San Francisco back in February, and I'm a huge Apple fanboy. Like I love Apple products,
yeah.
and Sean doesn't like Apple at all. And so I asked him, like, hey, Sean, like, what's the deal with you hating on Apple so much? And he's like, in 1981, they didn't let me do something. I'm like, how are you holding a grudge from like 1980 something? And so I personally my roots, my foundations run deep with Microsoft. When I was in the university, I used to represent, I was like a part of the marketing team. I was a student representative on my campus, Cal State Long Beach here, where I'm from California, and and so yeah, so I would represent Microsoft. So Microsoft would ship me like products and information, and I would just host events on my campus, on my university, and talk about Microsoft. And so for 3 years of my career, like when I was first starting out, like Microsoft was deep into what I lived and represented before I became Dr. Jira. So yeah, so I can definitely empathize here with the whole Microsoft stuff. So I did want to talk a little bit about you brought up something very interesting, right? Atlassian, when they see some growth, when they see some opportunities, they tend to enter this space, right? We saw the same thing with last year at Team 23 when they announced like Atlassian Intelligence. I went outside and all of a sudden all the booths that said like AI, like I was like that, well, you guys don't make a whole lot of sense anymore, right? And so how do you pivot your company, right? Like how do you innovate to stay ahead of the curve given that Atlassian has folded in a couple of those features?
I mean, for us, it's not really a shift, to be honest. Like, it's just we do what we always do. Like, we have two different ecosystems that provide great capabilities, and I always try to think of it like puzzle pieces. Like, this is good in Jira, this is good in Microsoft, this is good in Jira, this is good in Confluence, this might be good in Atlas or whatever. And you are building your digital workplace, and you need some puzzle and there's some pieces that are missing in between, and these are the pieces we provide. Um, and we will not create our own AI models. Like, there's no need for us to train our own models. We get AI from Atlassian, we get AI from Microsoft, but we can make it available wherever you need the correct one. Like, to give you a precise example, you have an issue and you want to collaborate on this issue. We provide you an easy way to start a Microsoft Teams chat. So you can invite everyone in the issue, start a new chat, and then you can write, call, whatever you need to do to get this issue resolved. And there are various results. So you have a chat history, you might have a transcript from a video, you might have a recording or something like that. And right now we make all these available in the Jira issue, so you have everything in one place. And if you're wondering, how did we resolve that? You can go into the issue and you don't have to search anywhere else. You get the chat, you get the transcript, you get the video recording, stuff like this. Now with AI, we just add, for example, a summary of the transcript. Like, you do not only get the transcript, we can also use AI to create you with a quick summary. And he's like saying, hey, these were the steps you tried, and that was the final result. So this is not an AI we need to provide on our own. We can just use the Microsoft AI, bring it to Atlassian, and it will already create additional benefit for the customers. The same. I mean, there are a couple of things where we just take what already is there and bring it to somewhere else where it's actually needed.
Right.
And we did that for our Teams app, we did it for our Outlook app, and we will do the same for the AI market.
So you really then, I'm assuming Microsoft's going to open up like Copilot APIs that maybe you guys can even leverage? Or how does Copilot play into the whole thing, as from your perspective?
I mean, for us, it's definitely a tricky situation because it requires an additional license. And if we are designing a product, I would love to have features that are available for everyone. And right now, Copilot is
It's a
rather
standalone
expensive.
price, yeah.
I mean, you need to have a separate license. It is rather expensive, and not
Oh,
every
yeah, I've seen those numbers
user
in, yeah.
is getting it, or not yet. Or companies are still trying to figure out, is it worth it, and how
Right.
often is it used. So they're often in a pilot phase right now, and so we cannot use Copilot directly right now. But there are like Azure bots that we can use, and there are possibilities for us. But yes, you're right. Copilot is currently not possible to use it from external sites. What we can do, we can enhance Copilot with more Jira information, and because we have more. There is, I mean, to be fair, there is a Copilot extension for Jira already. So this is what I mentioned at the beginning. Atlassian is investing into this Microsoft space. They are early access partner for Copilot extensions. So Copilot was released, Jira integration was already there. And so I do not think their Slack offering is better. I think they will catch up in Teams as well. But we do have the deeper understanding of the context, and we can do things Atlassian do not want to do, because like they do not want to give Microsoft all their data. They are still competitors. So they are really balancing out how deep is my integration with Microsoft Teams? How deep is my integration with Copilot? Because in the end, yes, they need each other, but they are also highly competitors with
Competitive, yeah.
GitHub and stuff like
Yeah.
this. So it's a love-hate relationship. I mean, I'm not an insider at all, but I can imagine it as a difficult relationship. And so we are not bound to these political limits, and we can
Right.
really
And
create
that
what we
makes sense, because a point that I wanted to bring up earlier, Microsoft and Atlassian, I don't always see, and maybe I need to rephrase my statement from earlier, right? I wasn't trying to say that Slack was better. I was just saying, like, when you look at the UI of Jira, like, Slack is there. Like, I can see Slack, right? Like, it's in the project settings. When I'm in JSM, it's so much easier to make that virtual agent for Slack. Like, that marketing material, like, pushes you in towards Slack versus the love or attention that they would give like a Microsoft tool. But to peel back the point I was trying to make, right? Azure DevOps Online, ADO, right? Microsoft's basically competitor to Jira, right? But ADO does two things. Not only is it just the Azure boards, which is like a Jira competitor, but it does the source code repository separate from GitHub, right? And for many, many long times, I don't have the exact number, right? But anybody who using Azure DevOps Online, there was no integration into the Atlassian ecosystem, right? Like, and if there was, it was a very nothing you wanted to do. But Atlassian did release a Atlassian developed integration. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because Atlassian makes this free integration, and then there are a couple of marketplace vendors like yourself that take advantage that there's no integration available from Atlassian and make their own offering, a paid offering, right? And my observation and seeing both the paid and the free is that Atlassian, it almost seems like it's a compliance thing, because if you've ever used that Azure DevOps integration that Atlassian made, in-house made by Atlassian, it sucks. Like, it's not very good. It's not the best. And so I think companies like you, like Yasoon, here's where you can say, hey, Atlassian, great, they make this free stuff, cool, but it's like basic, right? Like, this is really where you want to come in if you want to enhance your experience.
yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's exactly what you mentioned. I mean, they have to do it. There is often, and it's big corporate. I mean, it's nothing unique to Atlassian. They get a budget, create an Azure DevOps app or a Teams app. Then they're working on that for 6, 12 months, release it, and then it is automatically on maintenance because it's not the core business. These integrations, they are a checkbox feature in the end. So they want to have it for
That's why I said, like, it's a
customers.
compliance thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And they are also, I mean, you get value out of it. You have to be, we also have to be honest there. If you just look into if your company goal is to make Jira stronger, they are absolutely useful integration. If you want to make your customers happy or your users happy, they might have different needs, and so then there are paid apps that provide additional features and additional values, and also, I mean, we have to talk about that. We are much more agile, and if market change and teams change like daily, I don't know how many updates I get for
Yeah.
teams.
You be more reactive
Um,
to those
they have
changes.
a they have a really traction on it. We can react on it within a couple of days or weeks, and Atlassian is more traditional software company. Like, they are specking, and then you get a feature request and you can vote on it, and you know how that works. And also for the Teams features, there are public feature requests and you can vote on it, and at some point they will or will not integrate that into the application, but it definitely takes a lot of time, while we can just act a lot faster.
Yeah. Now, I did wanna ask you, I asked you a question earlier,
Oh.
and well, we talked about, "Hey, why not go over to Slack?" Right? And you're like, "No, I don't wanna do Slack." But I wanted to ask the question in reverse. So, very invested you are you're doing a great handshake between the Atlassian ecosystem and the Microsoft ecosystem, right? And again, just first from what I'm seeing from my videos and how they're performing, people love it. Awesome, right? But Jira and the Atlassian ecosystem isn't the only productivity tool in town, right? You have the likes of like Monday and Asana,
Yeah.
ClickUp, right, and so many others. W- why only Atlassian? Like, do you ever see yourself going into some of the other
Uh,
productivity tools?
okay, you're really smart to to find that. I mean, obviously, we are thinking about that
Well, disclose what you can. I
because
also don't want to get you in
the
trouble.
no. I can talk about everything. The yeah, we. I mean, our offering is definitely much easier to replicate on other tools. We have a super strong ITSM case because this whole communication part in ITSM with customers is super slow at times because you always
Mhm.
have this comment, mail out, then the customer replies it. So you do not get these super fast conversations in a traditional service desk. And with our app, if everything is on Teams, you get it snappy fast, and it's just a completely different experience if you can chat with someone. Um, and yes, we are thinking about replicating that to other ecosystems as well. We On a technical side, we also prepare for that. Like we try to not get this vendor login. We try to avoid Forge for as long as possible. We try to limit our API use to make it not too specific to Jira. Um, but on the other hand, we have right now only about 10,000 customers for our app. I mean, only it's an
I was
incredible
like,
amount. I mean,
that's a lot.
when I think about how we started, where we had like I think we had at the very beginning we had like 5 trials a week or so, and now we have I don't know 50 a day or so. Also, it's like a crazy amount. If you ask me what are 10,000 customers, are there 10,000 customers in the world? I would say yes, probably, but um,
We'll
it's
never
an
see them.
I couldn't imagine they are using my software. But in the end, they are like, what are the latest numbers? I'm not 100% sure. Like, don't name your name. Like 200,000 Jira or cloud customers, round
Yeah,
about that.
Atlassian hasn't really called them out. They said that they have 300,000 customers, but that's
Okay,
across Atlassian, right? They don't
okay,
really share
yeah,
like
okay.
the
But
specific
let's assume there are much
200.
more than 10,000 Jira customers,
Right, there
and
definitely there are.
I still believe that one of the early mistakes we made was to distract ourselves too early. Like we have created a product for Jira and we have created a product for Confluence. We had created a product for Stride, if you still remember that.
Yeah, barely,
Um,
but yeah.
and so we burned a lot of resources to create something that in the end didn't work out. And so right now we are full focused on making the Jira Microsoft integration the best that is available and the best you can imagine. And once we get that, we might replicate it to other ecosystems as well. But right now, it's full focus on Jira,
That
and I think we need to have 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 customers before we do the
before you
move
even,
to
yeah.
another
That is just
ecosystem. That's my
so,
goal.
but that is what you're saying is just so smart, right? Because so many I'm a YouTuber, right? And on the YouTube side, we have a very similar belief, right? Like so many folks that are trying to get into content creation, they want to do it all. They want to do the shorts. They want to do um,
Mhm,
other platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok, right? And you dilute yourself so much to the point you're very inefficient, right?
mhm.
And when I was growing this channel, I would attribute the success of this channel has been because I focused not even on Atlassian, but for one whole year, every video was just Jira, right? It
Yeah.
was every video was only for Jira for an entire year. And it wasn't until like almost like 13, 14 months into this YouTube channel that I folded in like Confluence one day, right? It took me a
From my
while, but I wanted
experience,
to
that's
focus.
smart.
Yeah. But there's value in that focus, right? I think a lot of companies just want to like they want to I guess, mitigate their risk, right? And get as many tentacles out there as possible to try to see what catches. But there's riches in the niches. We have this saying here. I don't know if you guys have that same thing over there, right? But there's riches in the niches where if you focus and you do something really, really well, you're gonna do it better than everybody else that's distracted. And you can definitely see that with your app.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we try to do. I mean, of course, we also have always concerns like, are we missing the next unicorn? Could we do better? Could we have more customers? But it isn't if then that discussion. It's theoretical, and for now, I and for me, I mean, there's also this personal aspect. Like, I'm a developer myself. Toby's a developer. How are the chances that setup works everywhere? So I think this is really unique to the Atlassian marketplace, that this setup has worked, because the marketplace is really a strong vehicle in Atlassian ecosystem. And I just love being in my office and coding. So if I add another ecosystem, yes, I do now have a marketing team and they are doing all these stuff for me. But in the end, a lot of these things are always networking, and you know it for sure as well. Once you have these relationships with people, everything is much easier. How to sell with partners? Yeah, they need to know you. They need to trust you, and this is something often I have to provide still myself. So I have to show up, shake hands, be there, show presence.
Do one of
And
these
I
interviews.
don't want to go to 5, 6 conferences. I'm happy to go to Vegas or
Beautiful.
Anaheim next year, and that's it for the year.
What about your co-founder? So what is your co-founder's perspective on the company growth like that then? Or
I
is he
mean,
very technical
I
as well?
mean, yeah. The good thing is we are really big friends, and super aligned on that, and probably nobody would ever force something that is that the other don't want to. So yeah,
No, but I
we are on
meant
the same
like
page. Yeah.
what's your co-founder's views on, that outreach, that marketing on growing and popularizing the brand of Yasoon versus coding, right? Because I'm a developer too,
Oh,
my wife's
same.
a
I mean,
developer too.
he's even more naughty than me and nerdy than me. So he would skip the one event as well.
Yeah, Sigma too. It's interesting that you say that, right? Because I was like saying, right, like my wife and I, we're both developers, but my wife and I, she's a very, we like to say that I'm like Steve Jobs and she's like Steve Wozniak because she loves the coding, right? She loves being behind the scenes, taking care of everything. And I get joy from this. Like this is what I love doing, right? Like talking and interacting and going to the conferences.
Yeah, I mean, we have okay. Then it's definitely more complicated with Toby and me, because we have a weird split. He is definitely more technical than I am. He loves to um, look into all these details of the platform, and while I'm like, oh yeah, front end UI coding, that's nice, and oh, there's a nice architecture and stuff like this. Um, but in but still he's the one looking at all these minor things, like, oh, this icon is off, this font is not the right font here, how could you not see that? I'm like, how
Ow.
can you see that?
So from a technical perspective, then it sounds like you complement yourselves really, really well.
Yeah, and then I'm more like to think about the long-term future of the company, while Toby is more organizing the backlog, split into
Mm.
tasks, and so we are, yeah, it's we are complementing each other
Do
quite well. But
do
it's not
both
as
of
easy
you
as
do
going
both of you
outside.
do both of you equally invest into like learning Microsoft technologies and Atlassian technologies, or you kind of split where like one person does all one? So both
It's
of you.
for us that wouldn't work. I mean, we discuss everything together, actually, like every decision, and I always learn something if I don't- I'm always like, I have the perfect plan, this is how we should do it, and then in the end, after talking to him, it's definitely different. It's still a great idea, but we make it better together. And so I don't think any single person should own a topic on their own, because I always think if you have this partner that is really into the topic as well, it will always give a better result in the end.
Okay. Now, what about from your developer's perspective? Do you have like Microsoft heavy subject matter experts versus Atlassian, or they just again equal with
No, I
everything?
mean, we have a really unified tech stack. Like everything is Node.js, everything is TypeScript. We have on the front end, everything is React. So for us, it actually doesn't matter if you call a REST API from Atlassian or if you call a REST API from Microsoft. You get some data, it's typed. It really doesn't matter that much. So
Right.
obviously there are core competences. So some people are better in the UI, some are better in the back end. Some have more strengths in DevOps, like how to set up our infrastructure. But we would never split it into Atlassian and Microsoft. So we really try
And
to
keep
harmonize
it
that.
balanced, yeah. And the only reason I'm probing or asking or I'm curious about is because Jen Schumacher, employee roughly number 13. We still have to get
No,
to
yeah,
count but I don't know if are you familiar with him, Jen Schumacher?
yeah, from the released app.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
release. Yeah, yeah. So he was telling us a story when Atlassian first started, right? It was kind of like Mike took the Jira, or I forget which one was which, right? But one co-founder took the Jira team and one co-founder took the Confluence team, and they kind of both just went differently, right? Or they each managed two different. So I was just kind of curious because it's not very often. Like I know that a lot of companies have co-founders, right? But usually the co-founders, from my experience, have been like one's the technical one and one's more like the visionary, non-technical one. Kind of again that Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak kind of mentality. So when you have two technical co-founders, right, very much like Atlassian, right, it's always interesting to me to kind of probe into that question to just kind of see how they think, because when you look at custom charts for Jira, I don't know if you remember O Street Solutions. May they rest in peace. Right. Chris Cook was a co-founder, right? But he was definitely not technical, right? Like Chris, I don't even think knows what Jira looks like at all. Like he's never used it, right? And so that's kind of the dynamic I was trying to get to. It's like, how do you guys operate? But it's kind of interesting to see how you guys share the workload like that.
But I think this is the great thing. Every company can be unique, and there's not these, you have to do this and you have to do that. For like 8 years or so, we did not even have a controlling. So we had our bank account, and if it goes up, it was a good month, and if it goes down, it was a bad month. It can be as simple as that. I mean, and we still have very limited analytics, for example. Our marketing team wants to have them, and I'm always asking, what are you doing with them? I mean, what will we do better if we have them? And often it's like, yeah, we will see, we will figure it out. And I think there is there are good examples how to really operate on them. If you have more capabilities on the marketing side, it's good to have them so you can use the development resources more specifically or more precisely. We operate completely different. We want to provide a technical excellence platform that just works. It's super easy to integrate, which is also quite unique. So you can integrate Jira and Microsoft 365 and into a lot of processes in just 5 minutes. It's not that you have to create a project and an integration project and stuff like this. It's just you toggle it
It just
on and
works.
you're done.
Yeah.
So we like to think about how we create our product, how we create a platform, how we make it stable and reusable and maintainable, and don't just stack shit on as
Right.
high as possible. And this is also the role in our marketing team. They do not have these deciding capabilities. They are taking what development creates and then polish it and make it look great and demo it and frame it that customers will understand what can be done with it, and classify it and a lot of things. But they are not the ones to decide what features we will develop.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting too. Then, so it's more like kind of like a Google, right? Where like engineering drives
Yeah.
that product roadmap, as opposed to anything else. So
And we also have no product owner or product manager and no scrum master or something like that. So it's more like a team effort to pick the right topics to work on right now.
but doesn't that, so just, I guess this will be our last question because we're running out of time here. But so then how do you, because at the end of the day, right, the usability, awesome. I think when I look at a lot of apps in the Atlassian ecosystem, I'll install them, and if I have to struggle to figure it out, like I'm going to the next one, right?
Yeah.
Because like that usability perspective, it just needs to work immediately and it needs to be intuitive, right? Awesome. I think you guys got that covered. I've never struggled with your app and it just works, right? But you're also not the only player in town, right? So your success can be replicated in a sense, right? So how do you like stay, like how do you keep your ear to the ground and understand what the customer wants when you don't have a person that is responsible for
I mean,
keeping your ear to the ground and listening to the customer's needs?
yeah, I mean, we don't have a dedicated person for that. I mean, obviously, Toby and we do talk to customers regularly. Like, if there are interesting demo calls, I just invite myself to talk to the customer and know what they are driving and what they try to do. And there are so often interesting examples where they want a specific feature, but in the end they need something completely different. They were just in their mind it was the feature they need, but in the end we solve it now in a completely different way. And this is on a high level, this is something Toby and I provide. So like these are the topics that are interesting right now, and these are the focus areas to complete our solution. And okay, to be honest, it will be never complete. It's so complex, and you can always add more
Right. I mean,
features.
software is never complete. Anybody who
um,
thinks there's a finish line is foolish. Yeah.
uh, but you can have these major topics covered, and then go into the more niche things.
Right.
And so yeah, we still have that, but we do not. But a developer is not getting a fully qualified ticket or something. It's more like an idea, and we start to collaborate on this idea directly with the developer and shaping the feature and making sure how it fits into our architecture, and if it's the right, or maybe we also decide it's not the right time yet because it just doesn't fit into our architecture and it's technical not a good solution to build right
Mhm.
now, and we should probably focus on something else. So yeah, that's, I mean, this product discovery topic is super complex. I'm by the way, I'm a big fan of Jira product discovery here. That's really helps us a lot. We have been
Yeah, it's
one
a
of
great
the first
product. Yeah.
users, and it really helps for us to structure the thoughts and get to an idea that can be created.
Great. Well, Andy, thank you so much. I'm out of time here, and we want to be respectful of your time as well. I did want to say, first of all, thank you so much for supporting the channel and for sponsoring what we're doing here at ApeTech. And again, a lot of this wouldn't be possible without your guys' support. So thank you very much for that. And second, just thank you for this app. I'm a Microsoft shop as well, so right, so we use it a lot, and it's a very powerful thing. And I think when I saw it, it clicked, the context preservation, right? Because a lot of the struggles that I see so many teams do is like you're switching your brain so much, going from one tool to another tool to another tool, talking to one individual, waiting for time zones to catch up to you, right? And then you can lose the intent of the problem or the solution you're trying to solve, right? And you make it so that the tool disappears and you focus on the problem or the conversation, right? And I think that's just very well made. So I want to say thank you for making this.
Thank you so much, and also thank you for all the contribution for the Atlassian community. I think it's for me it's super important that Jira, especially Jira Cloud, is
Successful.
getting a successful platform, and I really appreciate all the. I mean, I've heard, I'm not entirely sure if it's true, but I heard you get up early in the morning to record the early videos,
Yeah.
and thank you so much for doing that, because that's definitely something Atlassian needed. And if they don't do it, great,
Somebody's
you
gotta do
do
it,
it.
yeah. All right, Andy. Well, next year Teams is in my hometown, so make some time. I want to spend a few minutes with you next time.
I will be there. Yes,
All right, sounds
absolutely.
good. Thank you so much, Andy, and thank you to everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Have a good one.